So here's a V70 feeling pretty sorry for itself once again. I thought that it might have given me a few thousand miles after the crank pulley separated. However, we're at 320k and unfortunately the heater matrix has given up. So it had been leaking for a good month, and more fool me for ignoring it. But on the motorway it finally went with a bang and actually scalded my foot, so I have a 2nd degree burn on my left foot. Now, fortunately, this heater matrix failure coincides with me getting a donor car. So I will at some point be removing the heater matrix from the donor car and fitting it to this, and it's not an easy job on the right hand drive, and that's why I've left it. Also, I've been lent a car by a friend. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a personal emergency, so I've not been able to do anything work related at the moment. So what I'm going to try and do today is blank off the heater matrix. Now, this was a suggestion by someone that I will be picking a car up from next week, that I may be able to block off the pipes. So we see here, these 2 rubber hoses are the entry of the coolant from the engine bay to the heater matrix. Now, if I can clamp both of those pipes, I should be able to use the car without the interior heating working. Now, the car that I've been lent is much nicer to drive than this car, much newer, and yet I still miss the V70. I've just driven it a few miles to where we are now, and it drives terrible. There's so many issues with it, and it vibrates all the time. But this is my home. This is where I'd much rather be, and this is, as you can see, this is where my dog spends a lot of its time. So I'm gonna see if I can clamp that off, and we'll see if that does the trick for the time being. So now I've got better access. I've taken one of these metal clamps and given it some protection with these foam pads so it doesn't damage the pipes. I'm just going to clamp that in position, clamping both pipes, which should stop the coolant flow to the cabin and allow me to run the car without the coolant draining out every time. So just before I clamped it properly, I've filled it up with water and ran it up to temperature, because I wanted to see. I'd not actually seen it leaking because I didn't have this. There was a panel here that I've removed now, and I couldn't see it leaking, so I've ran it up to temperature, and as you can see it's leaking out when running. So now I'm going to clamp the pipes and run the car up to temperature again and see if we stop the leak. So it's clamped up tight now, and the coolant is staying at its level. I haven't got anything leaking out of the heater matrix anymore. But what's most telling is I've got the heater on maximum temperature and the vents are blowing cold, so we know that the warm coolant isn't getting into the cabin and ultimately the heater matrix. So that'll do for now. Look out for the videos repairing the heater matrix and a lot of other jobs. I want to fit a 6-speed box. I want to do the clutch and flywheel at the same time, the crank seals and the cam seal. So I may be taking the engine fully out and overhauling a lot of the external components.